Fan TV. Charlie here. I thought it's a huge weekend of Premier League football, so I thought I'd do a live broadcast and hopefully answer some of your questions. The only place to start really is yesterday. I got up pretty early, made my way over to Hackney Wick and had a bit of breakfast, and then watched the worst Chelsea performance that I've seen in a long time. I was in row 72 of the Olympic Stadium and I was freezing my whatsits off. It was horrible. Hello everyone joining. Thanks for coming. Yes, Josh. It was awful. We didn't get our foot on the ball at all. West Ham, they played very well against Man City, but we know what they're going to do. They're going to be 10 men behind the ball. And look, what Kevin's just said there, he said Bakayoko out. You know, there's no beating around the bush. He's had a really poor start to his Chelsea career. And don't get me wrong, you know, I agree. I do want to give him time, but, you know, we need points on the board. Conte after the game was very despondent, as were the fans, and said that the title race is basically over in terms of Chelsea. And unfortunately, I think at the minute he's right. And look, Ash just mentioned there, I think Morata as well. I think I love Morata. I think he's been a really great signing. But he's scored 3 and 14 at the minute. He really has, and he missed a shocking chance late on to equalise. I think he spent too much time on the floor, and you know, you can't help but watch the game, watch Morata. You know, he really failed to get the service. There was no movement up front. We didn't shoot enough, and you can't fail to watch it and kind of miss Costa a little bit. I kind of didn't really want to say it, but yeah, it was a really bad day at the office, and more importantly, I was fucking freezing. I was really I was really cold, so I didn't have the best day. But look, I mean, look, there's a guy just said there we need Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and I get that he's doing really well on loan at Palace, and I don't think he could necessarily be the answer, but I also think that we buy these players, and you know, if Ruben Loftus-Cheek had cost 30 million and we bought him from Monaco, I'm sure he'd get a chance. Whereas because it's come through the youth system, it's almost like he doesn't get a chance, which is bizarre to me. And you know, and I agree with fans just said there, we don't have enough depth. I just finished watching the Manchester derby, and both teams, I mean City absolutely, they were by far the best team, but the players that these other teams can bring on, the way that they can change the game, you know, we're just nowhere near that. I mean, our best hope's bringing Pedro on, and I love Pedro, but bringing on Pedro or Willian, we can't change the system. We don't seem to know how to play different ways. We never go 4 at the back. We never go 2 up front. You know, I'm talking like a real two strikers rather than Hazard playing off Morata, and that's a real worry to me. We didn't have any answers for West Ham having 10 men behind the ball and frustrating us, which, you know, every single person in the Olympic Stadium, they knew that's what West Ham were going to do. So there's no reason. I mean, I was speaking to my dad afterwards, and my old man was getting very upset about, you know, some refereeing decisions and some, you know, West Ham time wasting. It's like, that's going to happen. That's obviously going to happen, and it's not good enough that Chelsea can't respond to that. You know, the great Chelsea teams, when they were being kicked, they kicked back and they kicked twice as hard. You know, we seem to be wilting when teams defend against us. And you know, we've lost 4 games in the Premier League this season, 4 games in 16, which is nowhere near good enough if you're going to be at the top of the Premier League. And 3 of those are coming against Burnley, Palace, and West Ham, who all could very easily go down. And you know, it's just not good enough at all. And look, I see people there. Thanks for getting your comments in, by the way. I'm trying to read them all, but there's loads of them. Someone just said there about the squad depth, and I think a lot of it goes back to the summer. We know Conte wasn't happy with the players that were brought in. We know he knew. Like, I don't want to say Conte's this omnipotent bloke who just knows everything and nothing he does is without reproach, because I think he could have changed the game more times. I think he's made tactical mistakes in times, but he was very, very clear that he knows. Someone being very honest, what they think about Bakayoko there. He knew that Chelsea could not compete with the current squad they had, and yes, we did bring in players like Drinkwater and who I think has been really, really good, even though he keeps getting ill and injured and whatever. But we haven't really had a huge amount of squad depth. I mean, we haven't got a replacement for Alonso, who's clearly like, you know, very, very tired or unfit. Which you saw that. I mean, Zappa Costa. I mean, he had such a poor game, but Alonso basically had to come off because he wasn't fit, and he started. He obviously missed the game the other night, and we haven't got cover for him. I mean, I'd like to see Kennedy on the bench because someone just said it there, Kennedy, but he must be fixed. He played for the under-23s at MK Dons, was it? So I don't really understand why he wasn't there because that's kind of his perfect position. But I mean, and if Conte thinks he's not good enough, then we've got to get someone else. And you know, I mean, I don't think either of those wing back positions are our strength at the minute. I thought Cahill had a really, really poor game, but we haven't got enough options to change it up, and we haven't got enough. We haven't got enough strength and depth. And look, you know, I mean, I get that people. I saw some comments under the review that me and Sophie did against Madrid, and they were like, you know, just stop being so harsh. And I get that, and I don't think we played so badly on that night in itself, but finishing second in that Champions League group has knackered the whole thing because we can only get Barcelona or PSG or Besiktas. Obviously, football-wise, a lot of people were hoping for Besiktas because you definitely back us to go through. But if we get one of the other two, and it's actually more likely that we get Barcelona than anyone. I mean, it'd take a very, very headstrong man to bet on Chelsea going through against them. So, yeah, I mean, look, I see someone called Sian Davis-Hughes said, are our title hopes over? I think they are for the minute unless something drastic happens. And I say that not just because of us on Saturday, but having watched Man City on the telly this afternoon. I mean, they're just light years ahead of us. They've got class all over the pitch. I mean, we saw them outclass us at Stamford Bridge. And, you know, they're light years ahead of us. And I think Man United are as well, to be honest. I mean, that'll be an interesting game when we play them again. Because we were on top form when we played them. Morata was brilliant. But this formation has got a little bit old for me. I don't think we have the strength and depth in midfield to play it properly. I don't think we're good enough on the ball in midfield to play it. The see Chelsea SW6 saying much the same thing. He's commented a lot. Cheers, Tone. I think it rests so much on Hazard, and Hazard's been playing brilliantly 9 games out of the last 10 or whatever, but it's so crucial that Hazard plays well when the team's basically built around him. No one else is really pulling their weight, and when Hazard's slightly off form, I didn't think he had a great game on Saturday, then the whole thing seems to go to pot, which isn't good enough. And yeah, someone said it there, he can't do everything, that's true. And look, you know, I see someone's CFC 007 there saying, you know, Alexandra and people like that. I mean, we're not dining at that top table of transfers anymore, and that's really, really disappointing, you know. I mean, I can't pretend to be an expert on Sandro, but he's clearly the player we wanted in the summer. I mean, I think 5 years ago, Chelsea just go to Juventus and give them the money, and that's it. But I don't know whether it's a new stadium or whether, you know, people... There's clubs. I mean, there's certainly clubs a lot richer than Chelsea now, but we're not really at that top level of transfers anymore, and we seem to be scraping by with kind of second choices and all the rest of it. And if that's the case, that's fine. But we're going to have to stop thinking that we're going to be challenging for the title every year, because our rivals, especially Man City and Man United, they will be getting those players. You know, I don't think it's out of the question that Gareth Bale goes to Man United in the summer. I don't think it's out of the question. I mean, City will certainly spend another shed load of money. And I just, you know, when those big world-class players went up for sale 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was like, well, are they going to go to Chelsea? Are they going to go to Real Madrid? Are they going to go to Barcelona? But we're not in that conversation anymore. And I think we had this conversation in the summer, and I think that it's coming to a head now. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom, because I think it has been an okay season with some great moments and great performances. You know, Tottenham away was one of the best days for a long time. Madrid away was one of the best performances from Chelsea that I can remember for a long, long time, especially away in the Champions League. I thought that was brilliant. And Man United at home was very good. But against these lesser teams, you know, against organised teams, everyone behind the ball, you know, we're not creative enough. You know, I don't think we get enough goals from the middle of the park. That's something that the great Chelsea teams used to do. I mean, how many goals total are you expecting combined from Fabregas, Drinkwater, Bakayoko and Kante? I mean, Bakayoko hasn't scored yet. Fabregas might get you 5. Drinkwater a couple. Kante, I mean, how many goals he scored for Chelsea? I mean, I appreciate it's not his job, but 3 or 4. That's not enough in the middle of the park, and especially if you're going to play one up front, then it's no good. And that's something else that we were saying after the game. Playing one up front, you know, we've only got. We all know that Conte is not a Batshuayi fan. We all know that, and it's useless having. It's useless having one option up front. You know, I see some things on Twitter today. You remember when Chelsea had 4 brilliant strikers, and again, don't want to harp on about Man City, but you see them with Aguero and Jesus, and it's just, and you know, Man United could bring on Rashford, they could bring on Ibrahimovic, they could play Martial up front, and we're just nowhere near that. I mean, it's almost like Morata or bust, and then, you know, chuck Batshuayi on in the 83rd minute if we need a goal, but it's not good enough. We need more options. I think Morata's form certainly in the minute is patchy, and he seems to be kind of one of these players that is not. Will he get you 30 goals a season? I'm not so sure. But, you know, I have to wait and see. Thanks so much for getting these comments in, boys, by the way. Well, I say boys, there's probably loads of girls watching. Let's see, we'll see, look, CFC 07 again there. So Bakayoko, Zappacosta, Alonso, Cahill. I don't necessarily agree with all of those, and I don't want to say we should sell him. But, you know, there are certain players, certainly that were playing yesterday, that weren't good enough. I mean, Zappacosta's been a poor signing, let's be fair, but that's what you're going to get if you're going to sign a player from Torino that hasn't had the European experience. He's you know, Torino are not a top Italian side, they're not a top European side. He was a decent player for them, no more. He wasn't like one of their stars, and I appreciate he wasn't bought to be first choice, but you know, you look at some of the players the other teams can bring on, and there's just no comparison. So, you know, it is bad. Is Abramovich getting poorer? I hope not. Thoughts on Courtois, MC Moyes there. MC Moyes, what a great name, yeah. I mean, cheers for that. But Courtois, you know, I think, again, he's been one of the better players this season. His kicking yesterday was very, very poor. The Mail ran a story I think a couple of days ago about his quotes about going back to Spain. And I think, to be fair to him, I think he's been pretty honest about that. He's not signed a new contract to Chelsea. I think next season's his last season in contract. And I don't think... I'm not saying he's definitely going to go. I don't want that to be like the thing people take away from this. But I don't think it's out of the question that this is his last season at Chelsea. You know, if it doesn't look like we're going to be challenging for the league, it doesn't look like we're going to be challenging for the Champions League, because he is one of the world's elite keepers, and if Real Madrid can call in his children in Madrid, this is what he was talking about. I don't think it's as clear cut and dry as like he's going, this is it, but he was pretty honest that his kids live in Madrid and it's a difficult situation for him. But I think he is happy at Chelsea as well, and I don't think everyone should be losing their heads. We did win the title last season. I strongly believe, when I've seen some of the comments, people slagging off Conte, which is fair enough, but I mean, I've got full faith in him to kind of bring the best out of this squad. I think he was so incredible in winning the title last season. I think it was such a great achievement, and if he can keep us in and around those positions, then I mean, I don't think he should get too much grief. I think it's more a problem higher up the club, and also the performances of some individuals. God, CFC 07, really not a fan of Bakayoko, is like all he said. Yeah, it is a depressing performance. I agree, Palumi. When teams press us, hang on, sorry, I'm just trying to read these comments. Yeah, I mean, AJ Raines does a good point there. I think Chelsea are missing a half-time team talk from John Terry. I mean, we've seen him around the club last week. He came to watch the youth games. He was kind of, he had all the new Chelsea gear on, which boys from the mail gave him a bit of stick about. But I think the wider point there is, has this team really got the characters in it that we know that the great Chelsea team has? Has it got a Terry? Has it got a Lampard? For me, the answer to that is no. I'd say the biggest one that I could draw would probably be David Luiz, but I mean he's not playing at the minute, and I don't think it is. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't even think it's out of the question that you won't see him play for Chelsea again if he leaves in January. I mean, Christensen has arguably been our best player this season. We know that Conte and David Luiz have had a bit of a fallout, but I don't see that there's loads of players that are gonna really take that dressing room by the horns and kind of G the team up. You know, if we're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, have we got the characters to fight back? And I think we showed some great performances last season. I think we've dug in this season at times, but I do worry that the characters have kind of been lost. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed seeing some of the swearing in the comments, and yeah, you're still cracking. I'll tell you what, I'll stick around for a bit. See, look, I mean that's the issue. I've just seen 2 comments in a row. One said Conte out. One said it's not Conte's fault. So, I mean, there is, and someone said, can we beat Barca? We can. We are capable of it. I think, you know, you see us against Madrid, who I appreciate not as good as Barca, and we do seem to have a bit of a hold over Barca. But again, it comes down. It goes back to the point I made a couple of minutes ago. Is this team full of those characters? And I'm not so sure. Barcelona have been brilliant this season, and I'd obviously go to Spain, and I wouldn't be able to wait for it, but I'd fly there with a lot of trepidation, knowing that it was going to be my last European trip for a while. I've got to be honest. Anyway, yeah, I'll head off now. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, and there'll be a lot more videos this week. And yeah, make sure you thanks for your comments. Make sure you comment more below. This will go up as a normal YouTube video as well. So let me know what you think below. And yeah, cheers.